We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into.
Tonight, the first images of American missiles launching from a U.S. Navy ship.
The White House releasing this dramatic video of the U.S. blowing up a boat in the Southern Caribbean.
My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier.
Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela.
We need to clean house of all of the warmongers and America last globalists.
And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II.
They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars.
This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence.
Big attack, and you really did a big job
in American history.
As a candidate for president, I loudly pledged, great nations do not fight endless wars. One of the reasons I was the only president in generations who didn't start a war is that I was the only president who rejected the catastrophic advice of many of Washington's generals, bureaucrats, and the so-called diplomats who only know how to get us into conflict, but they don't know how to get us out.
So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
When I'm back in the White House, we will expel the warmongers, the profiteers, and take over our government, and we will restore world peace.
But we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. You know, you can be grossly incompetent and be a threat to democracy. We're going to have our very large United States oil company. We're in the oil business. In other words, we'll be selling oil. Opposed to the Iraq war. And I actually did say, don't go in, don't go in, don't go in. But I said, if you're going to go in, keep the oil. So we'll be selling large amounts of oil to other countries.
Just like I predicted Iraq was a disaster, I'm the only one that said don't do Iraq.
Spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken oil infrastructure, and start making money.
This is what we have as our president. We're going to end up in World War III. We're going to end up in a depression.
And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so.
I will build a military that's so strong that we'll never have to use it.
In recent weeks, the U.S. military has launched strikes in Nigeria, Syria, and Somalia, seized oil tankers off Venezuela, hit Iranian Revolutionary Guard positions inside Iran.
I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
So was this operation a message that you're sending to Mexico?
Something's going to have to be done with Mexico. And I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about, because Cuba is a failing nation right now.
Yeah, look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned.
He's also threatening to annex Canada.
Frankly, Canada should be the 51st state, okay? It really should. Canada should honestly become our 51st state.
And invade Greenland and take over Panama.
Greenland. We have to have Greenland. We need Greenland. Actually, we need Greenland for national protection. It's not a question of, do you think we can do without it? We can't. They say that Denmark was there 300 years ago or something with a boat. Well, we were there with boats too.
We're not afraid of boots on the ground that we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually.
We need Greenland for national security and international security. The world needs us to have Greenland.
And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Monroe Doctrine.
World War III has never been closer than it is right now.
All right, it's time for a question. Mr. President, do you have a New Year's resolution?
I have.
Let's hear it.
Peace on earth. Peace on earth.
Good morning, everybody. It's a little after 8 a.m. here in New York City. I'm Julia Roginski here with Michelle Kinney. Welcome to the Mayday Morning Show. It is January 6th, 2026, which means it's the 5-year anniversary of the insurrection at the Capitol, what I consider to be the darkest day in our nation's history, a day that we thought was going to end Trumpism, but in fact was just the opening salvo of Trumpism taking over this country and now the world. Michelle, we have a podcast that we're dropping just in a few hours, which you have been up all night editing because you're a saint, about January 6th. And we're not going to, spoiler alert, our guest for that podcast is Senator Andy Kim. For those of you who don't remember, Senator Andy Kim was a congressman at the time on January 6th. And after the insurrectionists were cleared of the Capitol and the Capitol Rotunda was a mess, Andy Kim got on his hands and knees and scrubbed the Capitol Rotunda himself as a member of Congress. The blue wool suit he was wearing that day was sent to the Smithsonian at the Smithsonian's request. We asked him about that and the fate of that suit during Trumpism and just generally what he thought about that day. It is an extraordinary conversation. And I think we both very much strongly urge you to listen to it. We're going to live premiere it, right, Michelle, at 10 a.m. this morning Eastern. So
maybe, hopefully 10, if I can.
At some point, we're going to live premiere it today.
Like and subscribe so that you will, you'll get the notification when we schedule it.
Yeah. It is an extraordinary conversation for a number of reasons, not the least of which is I don't think I've ever heard a more honest politician in my life talk about where he thinks this country is headed. Just something you would not hear from somebody in that kind of position of power. So very much urge people to listen to that discussion. I do want to talk about January 6th quickly, Michelle. We have a whole podcast devoted to it, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I do want to talk about it a little because there is an extraordinary article in the New York Times this morning, which I'm not sure that you've seen because you were up all night.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, but I will tell people about it if they hadn't seen it. It is a story about the people who Trump pardoned and how they are upset because they have not been compensated for what they believe to be prosecutions, how they think that there is a new conspiracy afoot with Kash Patel and Bondi to prevent them not just from being compensated, but they don't understand why Pam Bondi has not indicted the prosecutors who prosecuted them and the judges who convicted them. And that they are angry at the Trump administration for not vindicating them to the extent that they want, which is both financial compensation and, more relevantly, to go after the people who prosecuted them. That is Banana Republic type talk.
Oh my God.
I think after what we've seen with Venezuela, because it's all tied in, I don't know that it's unreasonable to believe that this is going to happen.
Oh, I absolutely. Anything like that. I think once they start talking about it, there's a trial balloon, right? They send up the little test market, see how outraged people get. If no one's that upset, then okay, we'll do it. And even if people are upset, they'll get used to it.
Yeah. As we got used to this, right? As we got used to this nonsense, as to what's happening right now, which is pretty incredible. Yep. The other thing I want to talk about is that the Democrats on the Hill today are doing a commemoration of January 6th. I believe there are going to be some Capitol Police officers who will be speaking, and also, I'm not sure, but I believe some other law enforcement officials will be speaking. On the other hand, you have Enrico Tarrio and a lot of these January 6th insurrectionists gathering at the Ellipse today and marching to the Capitol. So stay tuned, because that is a combustible combination. And I don't know what's going to happen today at the Capitol, much like we didn't know what was going to happen at the Capitol on January 6th. We should have known what was going to happen because we should have been paying attention to what they were saying and taking them both literally and seriously. So when they say that they're gathering the Ellipse today and marching to the Capitol, I suspect the only thing that will stop them is that Donald Trump is not inciting them. But you don't know. So you don't know. So if you are Washington, D.C., be careful.
Yes, be careful, because these people are crazy. They're unhinged, and they have a hall pass for the rest of their lives now, because their president, Donald J. Trump, has sent them once before to do his bidding, his violent bidding, and he forgave them and he pardoned them. and it was a get out of jail free. So why would they ever feel that they'll face consequences ever again? They won't. They won't. And you know, God, it's if I was a member of Congress, it's I would be really conflicted. Like, do I show up and risk my life to commemorate this day, which needs to be recognized and needs to be remembered because all the Republicans are sitting there trying to tell us that it didn't even happen? Or do I just stay physically safe and not go outside?
You folks should listen to what Andy Kim said about that, because he said something I think that was extraordinarily honest, as I said, but also quite chilling. And he spent 45 minutes with us, which is just deeply generous in terms of the time he gave us. So please do listen to that podcast when it drops today. It is, I think, the best interview we've had, and it's just amazing. We'll see what happens on January 6th. I just didn't want the day to go by without us commemorating, not just on the podcast, but also here in the Mayday Morning Show, that it has been 5 years. I can't believe it's been 5 years. On the one hand, it seems like it was yesterday. On the other hand, it seems like it was.
Where were you? Where were you, Julie?
I was home. I was home. And my husband and I were watching it, and my son, all of us were watching it on TV. I mean, we were just in horror. We were just in disbelief over what we were watching. It just incredible. Like, my husband was the first one to kind of point it out, because he always watches cable news. I kind of was puttering around, and he was like, what is going on right now? And we both started watching, and we were just like, just mouths agape, kind of like September 11th, except I was in the Capitol September 11th, but just mouths agape watching this and thinking, oh my God. And for those of us who are American, which a lot of people in this chat are, and also a lot of some of us who worked in the Capitol and know those halls very well, you kind of put yourself there, right? Because it could have been me if I still worked there. It could have been any one of us.
Yeah.
So for me, it was very much a kind of out of body experience, thinking, kind of watching these. It was just crazy. I don't know what else to say. Just an insane watching them storm the west front of the Capitol.
I mean, I hate to say, like, I saw this coming, but I mean, I worked at LP at the time, right? This was the time between the presidential and the certification of the votes, but also this was the morning after the runoff, right? Or the day after the runoff in Georgia. So, I was like very aware of kind of what was going on. And LP had put out an ad, I think like a week or two before. Gosh, maybe it was a week before. And it was kind of jokingly, but not jokingly, telling Mike Pence, like, are you going to do the right thing, kind of thing? Because Mike Pence actually mentions the ad in his book as kind of like, this is what sent Donald Trump over the edge. Now, it might have had something to do with it, but I don't think it had everything to do with it. But, I remember getting into a Facebook argument. I'm not on Facebook anymore. I remember getting into a Facebook argument with somebody that I knew just from New York, Democrats, Bernie Bro, obviously, always, saying he's going to incite a riot. He's going to attempt a coup. He's going to. And he was like, you're not helpful. You're over the top. You're being dramatic. You're being hysterical. Like, spreading this kind of information is not helpful. And I was like, you know what? Suit yourself. I'm not wrong about this, because leading up to this, remember, like the Wi-Fi passwords at these MAGA rallies were about January 6th. And it was like, show up at January 6th or whatever, the Wi-Fi password. Steve Bannon was saying, like, gonna be wild, they were all talking about it.
Yeah. And if you watch some of the documentaries that they made about that day, you see the lead up to it, and it's all right there. I mean, the beauty of the Trump administration and the people around him is there are no secrets. They tell you exactly what they're going to do, which
Always
is why
out in the open. In the open.
Which is why I want to switch course now. We showed that wonderful ad that you created again for a reason. And we promise we're not going to show it every day, but it was important enough, I think, to show again today because of what is going on right now. They have doubled down And they're not obviously talking about just Venezuela. They're talking about Cuba.
Yep.
They're talking about Mexico. They're talking about Colombia. And most ominously, they're talking about Greenland. Now, do you have that clip of Stephen Miller?
Sure do. So for anybody who hasn't seen this, Stephen Miller, this was at 5:45 Eastern yesterday. He went on Jake Tapper's show. Now, in the past, we've been very critical of Jake Tapper, but I do think actually that Jake Tapper does pretty well with Stephen Miller, backing him into a bit of a corner, letting him talk, and then being like, kind of exposing his ridiculousness and his, honestly, how much of a psychopath he is. Before I play it, I just want to remind people again, if there's an interview, I forget where it was, the guy who wrote the Vanity Fair article with the staff, with Susie Wiles, Stephen Miller, and everything. He mentioned that the people who work for Donald Trump live in a bubble, like a bubble. They do not interact with the outside world. They do not interact with media outside their own little safe little comfort zone. So they have a very warped sense of reality, and a warped sense of like what's going on. And so listening to this, like through that lens, like just knowing that Stephen Miller's living on a different planet and he's extremely dangerous and he's been put in charge of this imperialistic, Death Star hemisphere mission. So let me just throw this up here. And
the president was very quick to say that the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, opposition leader Machado in Venezuela, doesn't have the support in Venezuela to become the next president or the interim leader. And I wonder where he got that from, given that her cutout, Gonzalez, won the election last year 2 years ago, overwhelmingly, 70% of the vote or something like that. Why does the president think that Machado should not be the next leader? Why does he think she's weak?
First of all Venezuela experts agree, that it would be absurd and preposterous for us to suddenly fly her into the country and to put her in charge. And the military would follow her and the security forces would follow her. This is not a serious, it's not even a serious question.
So should there be an election?
Let me, if you give me the floor for 30 seconds, let me tell you what we are doing here, Jake. The United States, this is sort of foundational. The United States is using its military to secure our interests unapologetically in our hemisphere. We're a superpower, and under President Trump, we are going to conduct ourselves as a superpower. It is absurd that we would allow a nation in our own backyard to become the supplier of resources to our adversaries, but not to us, to hoard weapons from our adversaries, to be able to be positioned as an asset against the United States rather than on behalf of the United States.
Sovereign countries shouldn't be able to do what they want to do.
The Monroe Doctrine and the Trump Doctrine is all about securing the national interests of America. For years, we sent our soldiers to die in deserts in the Middle East to try to build them parliaments, to try to build them democracies, to try to give them more oil, to try to give them more resources. The future of the free world, Jake, depends on America being able to assert ourselves and our interests without apology. This whole period that happened after World War II, where the West began apologizing and groveling and begging
I don't even
and
know,
engaging these
honestly,
vast
what you're talking about right
schemes.
now.
What I'm talking about, Jake, is the idea, and by the way, I know you love doing that smarmy thing, Jake, and I was hoping to be better than that this time.
I asked you about if there should be an election. I asked you if there would be an election in Venezuela. That's what I asked. I said, why was the president so quick to dismiss Machado? You answered that question. And then I said,
the objective, Jake, is security and stability for the people of Venezuela. With our help and leadership, that country will become more prosperous than it has ever been in its whole history. Venezuelans
but the woman running Venezuela right now is part of the Maduro regime.
There will be conversations, Jake, about all of these guideposts along the way. The reason why I was giving you that speech, which I know you didn't want to hear, is because you're approaching this from the wrong frame. This neoliberal frame that the United States' job is to go around the world and demanding immediate elections to be held everywhere, immediately, all the time, right away. to create
No.
these vacuums.
That's not what I think, but you invaded the country. We went into the country and we seized the leader of Venezuela.
Damn straight we did.
And I'm saying,
we're not going to let.
So is the U.S. going to have new elections?
Jake, is that we're not going to let Tim Pot communist dictators send rapists into our country, send drugs into our country, send weapons into our country.
Okay.
And we're not going to let a country fall into the hands of our adversaries. The future of Venezuela, working with America, is going to be so bright and so incredible and so positive, and we'll have a conversation about everything that you raised. But the priority right now, as the president has been made clear, is a judicious, thoughtful, careful transition process to secure a great future for Venezuela and to secure a great future for America.
All right.
And let's just take a moment and just acknowledge, Jake, that what we've witnessed under President Trump's leadership this last week is one of the greatest foreign policy and military victories this country has ever had.
Stephen Miller, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. So let me just be very clear about what's going on right now. And I know that this is a bit of a loaded statement, but I think it's important for people to know. And I don't want to hear from any Bernie bros who think I'm being hysterical or overreacting. The removal of Nicolas Maduro, despite what Stephen Miller just said, was not an isolated act of hemispheric housekeeping, which is how they want to put it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was something much bigger and far more dangerous. This was the first clear salvo of World War III. And I don't say that lightly, but I do say that as somebody who knows her history pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
It is a geopolitical declaration that the United States claims not just security prerogatives, but territorial and economic dominion over an entire hemisphere.
Yep.
First of all, I don't know why the United States thinks that these countries are just going to fold and let us walk in there and take them over, right? Without elections. Like so basically now we're colonizing Venezuela. He's basically talking about colonies, right? And if you don't believe me, let me read you a tweet that Stephen Miller tweeted yesterday. Not long after World War II, the West dissolved its empires and colonies and began sending colossal sums of taxpayer-funded aid to these former territories, despite having already made them far wealthier and more successful. The West opened its borders, including to Stephen Miller's ancestors, by the way, a kind of reverse colonization, providing welfare and thus remittances while extending to these newcomers and their families not only the full franchise, which means they got to vote, but preferential legal and financial treatment over the native citizenry. I don't know what the hell he's talking about there. The neoliberal experiment at its core has been a long self-punishment of the places and peoples that built the modern world. My friends, that is a 10th grade nerd intellectual, quasi-intellectual, but not really. I have no friends, so I sit in my room and ruminate about how I'm going to run the world one day.
Yeah, that's like the kid in AP history who's sitting in the back and nobody sits with him at lunch.
Yeah, that's a very nice kind of counterintuitive AP history test answer. But the reality is what he's basically talking about is that we need our colonies again. The United States, remember, has never been a colonizer. We've never had colonies.
Yeah.
Except I think for the Philippines for a little while, but we've never had colonies.
We have territory, but
that now is changing. Venezuela is now our colony, is what they're saying to us. And what I want to say is that this is not going to end well. Because China is watching these developments with very strategic calculation. Because Beijing has invested very heavily in Africa, in Southeast Asia, and Latin America. They have something called I don't know if people know this, something called the Belt and Road Initiative, which means that they've invested billions of dollars over the years all over the world, including in Venezuela, right? And it lends vast sums of money to nations across the globe and has established deep economic ties, including in Venezuela. So if we're saying that now Venezuela belongs to us as a colony because it's in our hemisphere, China hears a very direct threat to its economic interests. And it also hears a rejection, Michelle, of a multipolar world.
Yep.
What does that tell you? What does China do? Do we think China's going to say, oh, okay. Okay.
Right.
So, now we have a world that's defined by spheres of influence. And Beijing will feel compelled to secure its own sphere with force if necessary, which of course it will be necessary because it's not like the Eastern Hemisphere is suddenly going to say, okay, China, why don't you colonize us too? I mean,
well, yeah. And the other thing too, that I don't think people are thinking about is that while, Russia, China, and the United States can blow each other into smithereens with nuclear weapons and just end the world, like that would be very possible to do in a day's work. However, China specifically is inside our grid in the United States, our water systems, our internet. With a click of a button, they can shut us off and turn us into a primitive land in which all the things that we depend on to live our lives, for communication, for our train system. If you ever seen the series on Netflix, 0 Day, right? They shut everything off for 1 minute, see the destruction that happens. That can happen, and it's very possible that this can happen. It's a different kind of warfare that's going to happen here. There's going to be explosions, there's going to be invasions and things like that, but it's also going to be cyber warfare in a way that I don't think people are prepared for, because it's not anything we've ever experienced, really.
That's a great point. And, look, Russia, for its part, has long responded to Western assertions of dominance with territorial consolidation, right? They view NATO's eastward expansion as an existential threat. That's why they justify incursions into Ukraine, and they have increased its interest in consolidating influence through Eastern Europe and the Caucasus and Central Asia. Now, if we're saying that the Western Hemisphere is ours, they're saying, wait a second, it wasn't so long ago that we effectively ruled everything west of West Berlin.
Yeah.
Including half of Germany and east of that. Sorry, east of West Berlin.
Right.
And, okay, we also have nukes. We also have massive landmass. We also used to control literally I don't know if people here ever went, if anybody here has ever been to Berlin or was in Berlin back when the Berlin Wall stood. I actually had been. When you walked from West Berlin into East Berlin, it was like walking from
like time travel almost, right?
It was time travel. And it was just incredible. And if you're Putin, of course, I said this yesterday, you were a KGB agent in Dresden,
right?
You want that back.
Yep.
So we are in the midst of World War III, my friends. And of course, what's going to happen is it's not going to be fought over a single battlefield. It's going to begin with repeated assertions of territorial and resource control, right? Venezuela in the Western Hemisphere. We're going to have Taiwan in East Asia, Ukraine on Europe's eastern flank. And there's going to be an erosion of any mechanism for peaceful dispute resolution. And the biggest asset one of the biggest assets to why we haven't had a world war since the last one is NATO, which brings us to Greenland.
Yes.
I want to be very clear about Greenland because I think this has been lost, and I don't know why people aren't talking about this. We effectively already control Greenland.
I think we're going to just go in. That's like what I'm seeing. I could be totally wrong here, but I think we're just going to start landing planes and stuff.
But my point is we already do. We have an air base there. We can already do everything. It's not like Denmark is standing in our way. We have a military base there. We can do everything we want in Greenland.
Yep.
We don't need to actually have it annexed to us. It's just that these jokers want the United States to look bigger on a map. And Greenland is really big geographically.
Yeah. I mean,
from a practical perspective, the Danes let us do whatever we want there anyway. We explore the Arctic with whatever we want.
Yeah, but it's not about that. It's about ownership and puffing chests and swinging the what's around. Because again, Donald Trump talked about this in his first term. He said, "I want to buy Greenland," and I remember it being like a joke because it was so ridiculous. We were all laughing about it. I remember the coffee shop around the corner for me, wrote a joke about it on the little sandwich board outside being like, want to buy Greenland or a cup of coffee? Or, it's like, it was like, ha ha ha. But now here we are, however many years later. And the thing is, Julie, is that this is where I am so angry at my fellow Americans for putting us in this position.
Yeah.
They told us what they were going to do.
Yep.
They told us. And the American people did not listen. And, we've talked about this too, is that, in Europe and in other parts of the world, they have physical, tangible remnants of war around them, being with their grandparents, hauling them over, saying like, see this, see what happened here.
It's grandparents. As I said,
parents, right.
I was born in 1973, and I can tell you that was, God, scary to believe, but less than 30 years after World War II. I saw people with missing limbs. Like it was a very physical, and I don't know what Moscow's like now. I haven't been there in a while, but back when I was growing up, there was World War II was ever present. I don't remember a time in my life when I did not know about the horrors of World War II. I think I learned that along with like how to speak.
Exactly. And I mean, I can only speak from my own experience. I didn't know about the horrors of World War II, like really, until Saving Private Ryan came out. And my aunt had brought my grandfather, who was a medic in the Pacific, to go see this. And he broke down crying. He could not breathe. It's not something that these guys talked about, which I understand. And same with my other grandfather. I didn't ask him any questions until much, much later in life about what he experienced over there. And we have the luxury of being separated from the rest of the world by two massive oceans. And for that reason, there are no ruins in the United States. There is nothing there's nothing tangible here for us to grab onto. The last war that happened here was in the 1800s, the Civil War, which it was forever ago. People, were churning butter. Like it's not, it's not fathomable to us. And again, like the rah-rah of the post-World War America was it was through rose-colored glasses. I mean, it was, America is great. We won. We're the good guys. They're the bad guys. And so for 80 years, we went on our way feeling pretty good about ourselves. While one of the major political parties of this country was completely ransacked and taken hostage by several different levers of power, the evangelicals, the tech world, and foreign adversaries.
I want to read a joint statement on Greenland that the following countries put out today. And I'm going to read it to you just verbatim. It's a little long, but I'm going to read it to you. And I want to, as you read it, understand that every single signatory to this is a member of NATO. Statement by President Macron of France, Chancellor Merz of Germany, Prime Minister Meloni of Italy, Prime Minister Tusk of Poland, Prime Minister Sanchez of Spain, Prime Minister Starmer of the United Kingdom, and Prime Minister Frederiksen of Denmark on Greenland. Again, every single person I just mentioned represents a nation that is a member of NATO, as is the United States. This is what they said. Arctic security remains a key priority for Europe, and it is critical for international and transatlantic security. NATO has made clear that the Arctic region is a priority, and European allies are stepping up. We and many other allies have increased our presence, activities, and investments to keep the Arctic safe and to deter adversaries. The Kingdom of Denmark, including Greenland, is part of NATO. Security in the Arctic must therefore be achieved collectively in conjunction with NATO allies, including the United States, by upholding the principles of the UN Charter, including sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the inviolability of borders. These are universal principles, and we will not stop defending them. Listen to what they're saying. The United States is an essential partner in this endeavor as a NATO ally and through the defense agreement between the Kingdom of Denmark and the United States of 1951. Greenland belongs to its people. It is for Denmark and Greenland and them only to decide on matters concerning Denmark and Greenland. All right. There's a lot to unpack here. And I just, in addition to the fact that obviously this is a collection of NATO countries signaling to their fellow NATO country that they will have collective defense. One is, I don't know that anybody believes the Europeans will actually go to war on behalf of Denmark. Certainly, Stephen Miller does not believe and has said publicly that he does not believe that anybody's going to go to war over Greenland.
Yeah.
The other, and my heart breaks for this, is that, of course, if NATO is busy focusing westward towards Greenland, it is not focusing eastward towards the real threat, which is, or what used to be the real threat, which is the Ukraine conflict, the war in Ukraine, which means that Trump is effectively giving away Ukraine to the Russians. NATO,
and the Russians, sorry, keep going.
I was going to say, Europe is now squeezed, right? You've got Russia on the one hand, and you've got the United States on the other, and they're advancing towards Europe in a pincer move. Which brings me to what I was saying before, Michelle. We are in World War III, my friends. And the only question is whose side we are on. And right now, I can't say we're on the good guys' side. No. And I also can't say the good guys will ever go to war against us, which Trump certainly is counting on.
Which is even scarier. And this is where I remind people of that signal gate, the signal chat with all these people, right? JD Vance, Stephen Miller, what's his name, Michael, I forget he's the clown who's now the UN ambassador, who added Jeffrey Goldberg into the chat. And then we have Pete Hegseth, we have Marco Rubio, Susan, all these people are in this chat. JD Vance, I think in like all caps, is like, I hate Europe. I hate Europe. Hate. JD Vance, the vice president of the United States, I hate Europe. And then I forget who else chimed. I think it was Pete Hegseth chimed in. Yes, me too. I hear you. These are the people running the country.
Yeah.
And whether they're clowns, they're incompetent, like look, these people are ridiculous. But we have to take this very seriously because they're also double tripling down because they know that if we do have free and fair elections here in November, that their time is going to be up. Because the Democrats are very likely at this point, if the elections were to be held today, would sweep at least the House of Representatives. And again, the U.S. State Department, again, they're showing us on social media what's going on. If you follow the Department of Interior, the Department of Labor, like it's all this Nazi propaganda shit on top of like just imperialistic propaganda. Like this is what our State Department posted on Instagram yesterday. Like, this is our hemisphere with a picture of this addled, drooling, dementia-ridden blob, 79 years old, doesn't know what day it is. And that's why I wanted to show as much of that Stephen Miller thing as we possibly could, because, my friends, that is the man who is running this country right now. Because, again, I will remind people, JD Vance is lazy. He is a power-hungry, lazy person. He's never had a real job in his whole life. He has had people paving and paying his way since he got out of law school. Peter Thiel being, number one here. Placing him in a job right after law school. That didn't really work out because he didn't want to do any work. So Peter Thiel gave him a bunch of money to start a venture capital thing. That crashed and burned because he's lazy. He's not a self-starter. He doesn't, he's the kind of guy who's like standing around the water cooler, drinking water, trying to like just pass the time because he doesn't want to actually get caught doing any work. And then then Peter Thiel gives him $15 million to run for Senate, still barely wins. And he walks him into Donald Trump's office and says, this is JD Vance. And after being in the Senate for a year or something, is 2 years as vice president of the United States of America and is a heartbeat away from the presidency.
Listen,
he needs Stephen Miller to be running the country.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. I mean, it is amazing. And
we say, and you said this yesterday, people should be scared shitless. And, we were like, I don't want to be scared. I don't want to be scared. Like, we need to be scared. Like, don't be paralyzed by fear. Fear is a very powerful thing. As FDR said, there's nothing to fear but fear itself, right? But turn that fear, that sadness, into something, into anger. Where is the anger from the American people? That's where I'm like, at what point in all of this, you know, in our insulation from these two oceans, where we don't have to feel any pain, and we don't have a draft, and we don't, I mean, the American people, what is this going to cost the American people before everybody looks up from their phones and their Super Bowl ads to see what the hell's going on and to give a shit about it? Because this stuff matters. Because we don't have a lot of time here to do something about this. And some of this is irreversible.
It's irreversible. It's irreversible because it was one thing if people believed around the world that we made a mistake back in 2016 because we didn't know what Trump was capable of. But we know what Trump is capable of. We knew what Trump was capable of. And by the way, we weren't the only ones watching January 6th with horror, so we're our allies. And then what they saw was the United States decided to put that man back in charge. And so who's to say that that's not going to happen again? We are no longer a reliable partner.
No.
We are, I mean, watch what Andy Kim says. I don't want to give it away, but you should watch this podcast today.
Yeah.
And it's just insane.
It is. And you know, I again, this is where we need more Chamberlain. Churchill, not Chamberlain. We need more Churchill, less Chamberlain, because the appeasement that is going to happen, that we are going to witness from many, many countries and many leaders around the world, is going to be astounding. And I don't know where that leads us. And if I hear, by the way, just sorry, one more thing. If I hear one more person, media pundit, Twitter keyboard warrior, saying only 3 more years of this, just 3 more years, guys. You think this shit's going to be over in 3 years?
My friends, he could drop dead tomorrow. And it's not going to be over.
It could be 30 years. Like, I mean, I hate to.
And we're not going to flip the switch all of a sudden.
No.
Listen, Biden tried. We've seen this experiment. Biden tried. Yeah. Biden was like, effectively Biden was like the former guy, he didn't exist. Okay.
Not helpful.
Not helpful. Listen, you had Mark Kelly being demoted yesterday by Pete Hegseth, some captain, some guy who never even got above captain in the military because he's such a fuck up. Sorry, Dad. Has the temerity to demote Mark Kelly. A naval,
infuriating,
a hero. I mean, a man who not only fought wars but went to space. I mean, God,
he's an astronaut, for God's sake.
Astronaut, demoting him because his feelings got hurt. I'm going to tell you right now, the next Secretary of Defense, and I don't want to hear the shit about norms anymore. The norms are broken. It's finished. And you need a Nuremberg style accounting. I don't mean these people need to be hanged before people get crazy, but I mean, you need
I want tribunals.
You need tribunals. You need tribunals. And Pete Hegseth better not just get demoted. He better get court-martialed for this illegal fucking war that he's sparking on right now in Venezuela.
And I think there's probably a myriad of shit, Julie, that we don't even know about.
We don't even know about.
That we will know. We'll know someday. We really.
Unless we have a Merrick Garland back in charge. I mean,
Jesus.
Listen,
I know.
I don't think the Democratic Party in Washington understands the well of anger that is coming from people around the country at this.
No,
because what I'm seeing is a lot of equivocation. Well, it's a good thing we got rid of this dictator and Maduro, 5 paragraphs on how awful Maduro is. And then, but on the other hand, he should have consulted Congress. No. He should not have consulted Congress. He shouldn't have done it. He should not have brought it to Congress because it's so ridiculous that it should not have been brought to Congress. It should never have even been talked about or thought about. And by the way, what Congress wasn't going to vote for it, he controls both branches.
Right.
That's what you're upset about? That's what you're upset about?
Procedure. They're upset about procedure.
Procedure.
Not the end result.
Okay. I don't want to start quoting, Creedence Clearwater Revival here from Vietnam, but like, I'm no senator's son, right? My kid's no senator's son. He wants boots on the ground. I have a 13-year-old. If this shit goes on and we're in the middle of World War II and those wars have to last long,
I know.
guess whose boots are going on the ground?
Yep. Because we do not have enough military personnel
to fight these wars.
To fight wars in every corner of this world, on this globe. And like, that's the other part of this. I'm like, who do you think is going to go do this? And, not to go on a tangent here, but like, we talked a little bit last night with the senator about service, right? About serving your country and how, and Pete Buttigieg talked about this too, and he got a lot of shit for it during his campaign, talking about like mandatory service, right? Because it's a slippery slope. Mandatory service is a very slippery slope, especially after, what happened in Vietnam and like the corruption and, the inequality of power in this country, right? It can be taken advantage of very easily. However, that mandatory service, in my mind, is not military. It's something else, because what Pete Buttigieg said is when he was serving in the military, he was like, there was a sense of like not community, but a shared interest. Like it didn't matter where you came from, who you were, what color your skin was. You were all in that mess hall together, wearing the same uniform with the same goal. You had a vested interest in the future of this country. And somewhere we have lost our way. And there is a nihilism, especially with young people, which I understand. Feeling like this country does not care about them because we set people up to fail now, between education and healthcare and everything else, and gun violence. People feel hopeless, and it's like, why would I even care? Why do I? And therein lies, there's like a gap there in this lack of shared interest in this country.
Our media is letting us down. And our media is letting us down. I'll give you an example. I'm supposed to do MSNBC today, and I just got my topics. And what is my topic today? You ready for this, Michelle?
No.
Okay. With everything we just talked about today, we are in World War III. What is my topic today? Tim Walz stepping down.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
I don't give a shit about Tim Walz stepping down.
I cared for about 5 minutes, and then I was like, moving on.
Okay.
It doesn't matter anymore.
Everything else that's going on, this is what you're devoting your time to?
And my question for that, is that the producers? Or is that coming down from corporate saying, let's not be hysterical here?
You got me. I know if I were still at Fox, where it would be coming from.
Well, did you see Megyn Kelly?
She's absolutely right.
Megyn Kelly, who, right, Julie's old coworker and maybe friend a little bit at the time. Megyn Kelly went off on a rant on her podcast, being like, I worked at Fox News. If I was still there, I know what the plan would be. We would all be told, we would all be given instructions that we were to be cheerleaders for this. And she was like, cheerleaders for what? Our kids are going to have to go fight this. And listen, she makes a very good point. And again, she's part of that America First coalition, right? With Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nick Fuentes, right? That's her coalition. And that is where there could be a fracture here in the right, in this, imperialistic mission. There could be some pushback here, but, I don't, you want to do business with Nick Fuentes? I don't think so, but it's our future is very uncertain here, but to hear things like from Megyn Kelly and like go, yeah. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's been tweeting the same thing, being like, stop, you lied to us. This is not what we wanted. This is not what you told us you were going to do. And I guess yesterday was her last day, or is today's her last day, right?
I think yesterday was, yeah.
Yesterday? Yeah, so she's gone now.
Look, let me tell you something. There's so much shit going on. There's so much shit going on in the world.
By design.
By design that they're trying to change the subject. Look what's happened, right? Why did they attack Venezuela now? First of all, they wanted to wait till after Christmas and everybody got home from their holidays in the Caribbean, right? Kids were on vacation. And by the way,
can't have bombs flying past, St. Bart's or wherever,
But by the way, it is such an elitist, and I live in this world, so it's not like I haven't done this myself. But it's such an elitist mindset for Donald Trump to be like, well, wait a second, we got friends in St. Bart's and we've got friends and all over the Caribbean who are on school vacation. I don't know, were Ivanka and Jared there? Were Bezos, and
I know who's taking over the Epstein Island. I mean, that's
whatever. Who's little St. Jeff's, like who was there? But so we gotta wait till after that so that we can close down Caribbean airspace. So there are people now who are in Aruba who are stranded, just so you know. All right, that's one. Two, and I think this is really critical to think about. Two, you have the Epstein files that were supposed to be released that nobody's talking about now because now we're in World War III, right? And suddenly Jeffrey Epstein doesn't seem so important. Three, and by the way, if you read this New York Times article, what you see is a bunch of these January 6ers saying, I don't know why everybody's focused on the Epstein files. We're the real victims of what happened.
Oh my God.
Okay, so that's two. Three, you have the 5-year anniversary of January 6th, which again, not that focused on today because everybody's talking about Venezuela and Greenland and whatever else. So that's why Stephen Miller farmed out to CNN. That's why they went wall to wall all over the cable news. And four, of course, you have people's insurance skyrocketing because of the end of subsidies for the Affordable Care Act for Obamacare. That's what they want us focusing on. And they don't have money to pay for Obamacare subsidies. They don't have money to pay for a lot of things, but they certainly have the money to go in, extract Nicolas Maduro, keep his regime in place, enrich the oil companies. And I guess that's somehow going to pay. They're going to tell us again, it's going to pay for itself. Like Iraq paid for itself when we got their oil. Like, what are you talking about? And by the way, one more thing. Unlike Saddam Hussein, who had an iron grip on his country, Maduro was president of a country that has these narco gangs that are running all over the place. They're taking over the country now. That's who's taking over.
Well, I mean, it's like, look what happened after Saddam Hussein was removed. ISIS, from the ashes. Another terrorist organization worse than the last.
Yeah, and now we're talking about going into Iran and having regime change in Iran.
Which we've already done, and how did that go?
All right, great, okay.
And you sent me that video, by the way, and I want to throw this up here. The vice president of Venezuela has been sworn in, the second in command to Maduro. There is no regime change here, people. It's the same crew. And she is greeted by whom? Embraced by whom?
Do you know who these people are? Could we tell you who they are? Why don't you tell people who they are, Michelle?
No, you tell them.
Those are the ambassadors of Russia, Iran, and China.
That's right.
That's the woman we're keeping.
I'm surprised we didn't have somebody there hugging her.
Why would we?
Right.
We installed her.
Right. And meanwhile, Machado, the woman who everyone thought would be installed because she's been the leader of the opposition and she was elected, right? And then that was part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
She was given the Nobel Peace Prize. And in her, thank you, Mr. Trump, thank you, President Trump. And, I share this with you. Now what has happened? She was on Sean Hannity last night, guys. And Sean Hannity leading the witness here. I just want to this is the most pathetic thing I think I've ever seen. Donald Trump is such a baby and such a little bitch about wanting the trophy that the black man got, which he doesn't get to have. Why did Barack Obama have it? Why can't I get one? Nobel Peace Prize. Sean Hannity's now like essentially passing a note in homeroom via cable news asking, will you go out with him / will you share your Nobel Peace Prize with him? It is so pathetic. I'm going to play this.
Right. Did you? Right. Did you at any point offer to give him?
Sorry.
Right. Did you at any point offer to give him the Nobel Peace Prize? Did that actually happen? I had read that somewhere. I wasn't sure if it was true.
Well, it hasn't happened yet, but I certainly would love to be able to personally tell him that we believe the Venezuelan people, because this is a prize of the Venezuelan people, certainly want to give it to him and share it with him. What he has done, as I said, is historic. It's a huge step towards a democratic transition, and I want to.
So, it's beyond embarrassing.
I mean, she's not going to get it. He has no respect for her because she's sucking up to him. He never respects her who suck up to him. He respects the other woman because she gave up. Obviously, the vice president was the CIA source who gave up Maduro so that she could be in power, right? She basically betrayed Maduro, which in the same way that Vance would probably put a shove in Trump one day if he could. And, this woman won a free and fair election a few years ago. So he's not going to put her in charge because he's not a Democrat with a small d. He does not believe in democracy.
Small d is right.
Yeah.
The fact that we have a president of these United States, the country of Eisenhower and Abraham Lincoln and Franklin Roosevelt and George Washington and Alexander Hamilton, although Alexander Hamilton was not president. But these great Americans who have led this nation in one way or another. And now we have little Donald Trump, who I don't think has ever read a book, doesn't know what day it is, and is such a victim, is such a petty victim that he needs to have fake awards given to him and essentially beg the Nobel Committee to give him a prize, not because he wants to earn it. He doesn't want to earn anything. His stolen valor is the name of the game for him. He wants to bully people into performing or he's going to bully his way into hosting the Kennedy Center honors. He's going to bully his way into having FIFA give him the stupid medal thing. This is what he does. I mean, he gets the Purple Heart from a wounded veteran. He says, well, this is a lot easier than having to get one. I've always wanted one. Or you've always wanted to be an injured veteran? Cool. But this is what he does. He just bullies his way into receiving praise and gifts and awards that he doesn't deserve. And he's never deserved. He doesn't deserve anything except to sit in jail and be held accountable for the sexual assault, the pedophilia, the felonies, the treason. The list goes on. Donald Trump's the worst thing that's happened to this country, at least in modern history. In the world. I'll never forget being at that one of the first protests against Donald Trump in 2017. This was after the Muslim ban. It was down in Battery Park. And I remember this woman had a sign and it said, Donald Trump is too dangerous for this world. And I have that picture on my phone and I look at it often because we were not hysterical back in 2016 and 2017. We were probably not hysterical enough, even us, because I don't think we could have imagined that it could have gotten this bad. But, we have the Republican Party to thank, and meanwhile, while all this goes on, again, our adversaries are controlling the internet and social media with bots. And they were like marionettes with the mind control of this country. It's really
It's amazing. We saw it on January 6th. We're seeing it now. We're seeing, I mean, I am cracking up at Fox, because Fox, when I was there, nobody cheerled the Iraq invasion more. I got to Fox in 2004 when we already were in Iraq, but I got there right as Kerry was running for president against Bush, and they were swift boating the shit out of Kerry every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And, by the time I left, they were like, no, Iraq was a mistake. America first. We don't need any more foreign adventurers, because, of course, Trump had already become president, and that was the narrative back then. And now they're back. And it's the same people. It's not like it's a whole new batch of people who have new worldviews. I mean, these are every single person you see there is exactly the same person you saw back then. I mean, they've all been there for 100 years. They're all, they're going to cheerlead us into World War III.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a cult. Not for Fox. I mean, Fox is just a money-making venture. They don't believe anything they say. But
No.
the people who are watching them, it's a cult. And, what is happening right now is that, and Megan's right about this, is that it is not their kids, it is our kids who are going to have to go serve. It's actually not Megan's kids either.
Yeah, it's not her kids. I don't know what she's talking about. I mean, in theory, but no. I mean, she's got enough money to pick up and do whatever she wants and go anywhere. But it's the Olympics start in a couple weeks. Mind you, these Olympics are not here, but the United States is going to be forced to mingle with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And I have to wonder how many people are going to boo the national anthem of the United States if they are at the top of the podium. I really wonder.
Well, forget the Olympics. We have the World Cup here in a couple of months.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's even...
I mean, we have people from all over the world coming to the World Cup. First of all, do not come.
Yeah, please don't come.
Do not come. For your own
safety.
We would love to see you here, but do not come. And you guys, we're the bad guys now. Mm-hmm. We are the bad guys now. I have never lived in a country before where I have thought we were the bad guys. I've lived in a country where I thought we made some horrible mistakes, like Iraq.
Yeah.
And said so at the time. But at least Iraq was sold to us for the right reasons, if that makes sense. At least they tried to humor us into believing that it lived up to American values.
Right. In the aftermath of the worst terrorist attack on American soil, which again, we all know the correlation was all bullshit, but there was a reason why people supported it. It was based on false information, but there was a sequence of events that kind of led up to it that in hindsight, you look at it and you're like, well, of course, even though it was all bullshit. This is just out of nowhere. I mean, it's not out of nowhere. I mean, Fiona Hill was warning us about this back in 2019. I feel like there was a mention of it in Project 2025. Like, it's just, you just have to look in the fine print. But even more so now, they really are just loud and proud telling us exactly what they're going to do. And why shouldn't they? They have not faced consequences for anything that they have done. Nothing.
Look, the Prime Minister of Denmark just said this yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Understand where we are right now. I believe one should take the American president seriously when he says that he wants Greenland, but I will also make it clear that if the U.S. chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops, including NATO, and thus the security that has been established since the end of the Second World War.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to just say this. Mette Frederiksen, who is the Prime Minister of Denmark, was being considered for the UN, for the NATO Secretary General job just a few years ago.
Mm.
So a woman who almost ran NATO.
I didn't know that.
Is now basically saying that if they do this, NATO's over. if I am Vladimir Putin, I am sitting whatever. I mean,
yeah, just
you guys,
back.
I have a 20-part series that I wrote with Olga Latman about how Russia interfered in the 2020 election to help Trump win. Sorry, the 2016 election to help Trump win.
Mm-hmm.
It is at once the most successful foreign intelligence operation, I think, in the history of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But second, we did not know how successful until just right now.
Yep. I'd argue that
fire a shot to defeat us.
Yeah, I'd argue we did not win the Cold War.
Oh no! I mean, when Khrushchev stood at the podium of the United Nations and banged his banged his shoe on the podium and said, you know, we will defeat you, we will bury you. I don't know if people remember. I mean, I wasn't alive for that, but if people remember that clip.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it.
Well, he did. And he's right. He's right. A country that has the GDP of like my thumb, that has a military that is falling apart, that has nothing going for it other than nukes and a lot of territory, has just defeated the mightiest alliance that the world has ever known by putting this idiot in charge.
Yep. And also playing the American people into it. I mean, with all kinds of cyber warfare and the bot farming and everything else. I mean, it was a very widespread and coordinated effort online.
Yeah. Yeah. I apologize. It was actually not at the UN. He said it. Khrushchev said it while addressing Western ambassadors at a reception of the Polish embassy in Moscow in 1956.
Oh, so not the UN at all. Not the UN at all. But the visual is remains though. I'll have to go look that up. Yeah.
And I don't know why it says here that the phrase was received very negatively by contemporary Western audiences, but some modern translators have suggested the phrase was misinterpreted or mistranslated. What he said in Russian was "Мы вас похороним." It was not mistranslated. It means "we will bury you." I don't know what the hell people are trying to do revisionist history on this with, but it means "we will bury you." And that's what he said. And that was in 1956, which was what, Michelle, 70 years ago to the day almost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And guess what?
Yeah.
Guess what?
It's, you know,
congratulations, Nikita Khrushchev.
And I just, you know, walking through the American cemetery in Normandy when I was there in 2022, walking through, looking at the names and the date of birth and date of death of all of these thousands of American soldiers, I just had this feeling in the pit of my stomach that I'm like, I just have this really bad feeling that all of this is going to be over soon. And it's not something that I like being even remotely correct about. I just, you know, I don't mean to be hopeless here, but you know, I think we have to be real about it. I think we can't come on here and be like, everything's fine, because it's not fine. Things are not fine.
Yeah, and we talked about this with Senator Kim, where we have people in the chat sometimes, and I'm sorry, this is you, saying like, why are you guys such Debbie Downers? Why are you?
Yeah, like, why do I have to listen to his voice? I'm like, I mean,
You
he's the
guys,
president of the United States. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know?
And for anybody who thinks we're Debbie Downers, no, we're just being realistic. Like, would we have been Debbie Downers back in 1939?
I mean, hello, come on. Exactly. And again, like the outrage, the hysteria, whatever word you want to use, is not enough.
No, and we have, unfortunately, all of these corporate media types who are talking about Tim Walz resign. Like, you guys, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to go. Not that I'm going to have to go over there. I'm committed to doing it. So I'm going to go do it. And I'm going to sit there. I'm going to talk about Tim Walz. And
I mean, you could ask them why they're not talking about something else.
I'm sure they're probably talking about other things too. I'm sure they're talking about this too. But really, you're not wall to wall on the fact that we're in the midst of, this is the opening salvo of World War III.
No one wants to say it. I wonder who the first person in corporate media will be to say this.
Me.
All right.
I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it.
I'll be there. What time are you on?
I mean, I'm not going to say it today because it's Tim Waltz, but I think I'm back
Oh.
on Friday if I don't get bumped. And if we talk about this, I will say it.
Good.
I'm on at 150. But I don't know, you guys. It's just, we're at the point here where I think it's important for people to understand and prepare themselves for what is happening. And to our Canadian,
I think that's a big part of it is
Yeah.
the preparation mentally, you know. Listen, and this is going to sound, I'm going to sound like a prepper. Okay. I realize this, but after the election, when I was feeling so hopeless, I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know the thing about exactly the thing.
You know what? Jen Pollock, I might steal that line.
Yeah,
say that.
seriously. That is very, very good. Because all I could think about was Donald Trump's going to be president and we're going to get cyber attacked. We're going to get what I was talking about, the grid and everything else. I went out and bought like a crank radio and paper maps and things like this. Cause I'm like, if the internet or our electric grid goes down, we are, you know what I mean? Like we are not in a good place. And I don't think that it's a bad thing for people to think about these things, have batteries in your house and things like that, because I think things could get very ugly. And listen, there are stories, you can Google them, that have been on 60 Minutes in the past and other, major nightly news about water supplies. There have been thousands of water supplies around this country that have been hacked by the Chinese. You want the Chinese all up in your water supply? I don't think so. So there are things actually that you can do tangibly in your life to prepare for worst case scenario situations and without feeling or sounding like a crazy person. And that's just one of them.
I mean, look, I think we need to just be prepared for any possibility, because things that seemed insane even a week ago are no longer insane.
No.
Like,
I don't know about you, Julie, sitting in the city of New York right now, where we got Maduro down the street over here. Sometimes I'm like, we're sitting ducks over here, but whatever.
I got to tell you, I got home from Pennsylvania on Sunday, and it was around dinner time, and I had not been out for a walk in months. I mean, I really haven't been I've been so busy. I haven't been out for a walk. So I decided that I said to my family, I was like, it's been real. I need a break from all of you. I'm going to go take a walk. And I started walking. I was like Forrest Gump, and I started walking, and then I was walking and walking.
Timu Gump.
I was Timu Gump, right? So I walked down to Rockefeller Center, which is a fairly big hike from my house. Walked past Fox News, where I used to spend every day. Walked past NBC, saw the tree again, and then cut over to the east side. And then not for some reason, I was feeling very nostalgic, and I had a very close family member who lived on the Upper East Side. So I decided I was going to walk all the way up to her house, until I realized I couldn't cut back across the park in the dark. So that was a stupid idea.
It's dark early this time of year, Julie. Gotta be careful.
No, this was like 9 o'clock at night. So then I start walking. I start walking. And I start walking up, and I get to 71st and 5th.
Okay.
For anybody who knows New York City, it's a very fancy neighborhood. And I made a right turn right by the Frick Museum. And I stood outside the Frick Museum at 9 West East 71st Street, outside of Jeffrey Epstein's house.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked at it, his townhouse, and I looked at it. And it's beautiful. But I looked at it for a long time.
Used to be an embassy. Yeah.
I looked at it for a long time, and I walked over to Madison, and you have all these very fancy stores right there. It's like a very big sort of high scale shop, upscale shopping center, and all of these incredible townhouses and all of these little restaurants, all of which are very adorable and very expensive. And I thought, it wasn't like he was operating in isolation. He was operating with people living next door. Well, yeah, what's his name living next door? Howard Nutlick, as you call him. But he, he was operating this little world, and I was walked, up Madison, and then, tried to get to 83rd, where my cousin used to live, who I was very close to. She passed away, and did not make it up there because, again, I was like, how am I going to cut back across the park?
Yeah, no, please don't do that.
Yeah, but the point is, the reason I'm telling you the story is there's so much going on in New York City.
Yeah.
So much going on in New York City. Where if I decided to walk a couple of miles down, I would have gotten to, where they indicted Maduro, or where Maduro pled out. And if I had gone to Brooklyn, I would have gone to where Maduro was being held. And if I got a few blocks, across from CNN and Hudson Yards, where the airport, the VIP helipad was, where they landed Maduro from wherever they were transporting him.
And listen, you could have walked a couple blocks up, and the Russian consulate is right there. I remember going there after the invasion of Ukraine, and I have pictures of it being completely, tagged and everything with spray paint. And it's like, everything's here. Everything's happening here within walking distance.
And yeah, it was just a very long kind of Timu Gump walk, because I certainly did not run. But it was just, I really just thought about that, and I was like, holy God.
Yeah.
In the span of a few miles, there's so much happening here.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of great, but also kind of.
Oh, and I'm sorry. One of the places I walked by, if you can imagine, Michelle, because I walked by from the tree all the way up to the 70s and on the east side, is I walked past Trump Tower. I haven't been back in years, and there's
always some like moron.
There's always some moron who's like taking,
always.
Yeah, and I'm like looking at this shithole Trump Tower, which is like a really kind of ugly building.
My dermatologist is right there, and I'm always like,
we sure are dermatologists.
Yeah,
Yes.
we do.
But I walked by. I hadn't actually walked by it. Our dermatologist is kind of down the street from Trump Tower,
from Plaza. But I always like have to walk past it, to go.
But I walked by it, and I'm looking at these people taking photographs of themselves in front of Trump Tower, and I'm thinking Melania's probably up there right now because not spending any time with him down in Florida or in DC.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, and by the way, Trump Tower, if people don't know, is like just a few blocks from Epstein's house. Trump Tower is on 57th.
And it's a dump.
Yeah. And Epstein's on 71st, so it's not that far.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking at all this, and I got very sad. I got very sad. I don't want to belabor the show and like leave people with this, whatever. But like, I got very sad because I was like, there's so much going on here. And yet you have these people outside of Trump Tower who are like, let me take a selfie. Like it's some sort of tourist attraction.
Oblivious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or in denial, or both.
Yeah. And I walked by them, and I think I literally said out loud, I was like, oh my fucking God. Like, as I walked by
right. Yeah. I'm sure the things that get said to people.
Yeah. And I don't think they heard me, but I think probably the cop who's standing outside of Trump Tower.
I mean, I'm sure that police officers heard it all.
Yeah. But I just, I don't even know what my point here is, other than to say we're living in a uncomfortable time. And I'm going to end the show, unless you have something else to say, Michelle, with the fact that we should just watch the interview with Andy Kim, because it will be the most honest. He will be the most honest politician you'll ever hear. I mean,
I think let's aim for noon. I think let's aim for noon.
Okay. And then you could watch me at MS Now today, talking about Tim Walz. This topic that's on everybody's mind, of course, Tim Walz.
Yep.
Okay, for me.
And we'll set for the podcast at noon. We will set a premiere live so that there will be a chat, so people can get in the chat, and either Julie or myself or both of us will try to jump in the chat and join in.
Yeah. So. If it's at noon, I'm gonna have a hard time jumping in the chat because I think I'll be on my way to. But I will do my best to do that too. Yes, it's on YouTube. It's here. It's right on Mayday. People are asking where it's at. It's on Mayday.
YouTube.
Right on YouTube. So watch it and let us know what you guys think. Seriously, I want to hear from people to let us know what you think, because I truly thought
No, it was great. As I was going through it afterward, obviously, like I had to watch it backwards and forwards like 3 times or more last night, and I texted Julie. I was like, "Wow, this is really something. This is really great interview with him." He said a lot. He said a lot of things in a very very frank, very matter of fact way.
I think he made a lot of news, quite honestly,
Mhm.
as a senator on this podcast, and I think we're gonna clip some of it out and send it out. But he was extraordinarily frank.
Mhm.
Extraordinarily frank.
Yep.
And the question is, if Waltz hadn't been the VP candidate, we would be talking about his withdrawal from the governor's race. If Waltz had not been the VP candidate, I don't even think the Trump administration would be making a big deal out of anything happening in Minnesota. This is punishment.
Yeah, this is again, they're sore winners. They can win and then still feel like they have to. They're schoolyard bullies. They'll just kick you. They'll beat the shit out of you and then come back and kick you in the ribs.
Yeah.
They won't stop. This is how Donald Trump is. This is like, think about Donald Trump. I mean, and this is where I'm like, in the background of all of this horrible stuff he's doing to the country, think about what he did to women and girls for decades and what we are seeing come out in these Epstein files and in these cases and in the complaint letters and lawsuits from young girls like Katie Johnson, who said she was 13 years old.
Yeah.
This man is a monster.
Yeah.
And the American people have elected him again.
Yep.
And on this fifth anniversary of January 6th, I can only say shame on him, shame on the Republican Party, shame on every member of Congress, Senate, sitting in power anywhere in this country who has excused it or tried to gaslight the American people, and shame on every person who voted for him to give him the keys back to the castle that he tried to destroy. Shame on us. Shame on us.
Yep. And on that note, my friends, have a wonderful day. As I said, and Michelle has said, watch for the premiere of this podcast. We will see you all tomorrow. We're also going to have a daily dispatch at some point in the next couple of days with Lieutenant Colonel Urso about the legality of what's happening. She's a former JAG officer. No, so we're going to schedule that as soon as we come up for air a little bit.
And separately, even from that, to talk about Mark Kelly and his situation, because she did text us yesterday telling us that like they cannot demote him and dock his pay without a conviction. So I don't know what Pete Hegseth's talking about. So there's a lot going on here that she'll be able to shed some light on for us.
Yeah. Okay. On that note, have a great day, everybody. And we will see you all tomorrow morning, but also before that on the podcast. And as Michelle said, one of us will try to jump into the chat. I will try to do my best to do that. What time for Andy Kim interview? We're going to shoot for noon.
I'll schedule it out. You'll get if you're subscribed, you'll get an alert.
So like and subscribe, my friends. Like and subscribe. All right. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye, everyone.